Which rookie QBs did the best in week one? We'll talk about that, whether we're buying, selling the Jets, and Stefon Diggs drama in Houston, all here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Chris Carter, James Rapien. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. It's your Wednesday host, Chris Carter and James Rapien from Locked On Steelers and Locked On Bengals, bringing you the action every Wednesday, getting you ready for your week of football here in the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this channel to all the Monday through Friday episodes that all of our hosts throughout the week put on for you here on the Locked On NFL podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can make every moment more. We are so excited because sports are still ongoing all throughout the summer, and FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. More on them later. James, we are through, a week and a half of preseason because there's the Hall of Fame game, but we're through kind of official week one of preseason, and that means we get to revisit some of our looks here on the rookie quarterbacks. I want to kind of go through some of the things that we saw from the rookies at the quarterback position, but I gotta say the guy that I was not really caring much for in this QB class that everyone was really hyping up. I think you and I discussed this all throughout the draft season. JJ McCarthy, was he the most impressive of the rookie QBs in week one of the preseason?
Oh, I don't know if I would go that far, but I do think he was impressive. And look, Jayden Daniels, you want to make sure if you're Washington, you're the Commanders, that Jayden Daniels, that it translates, and it translated, right? The same thing goes with Caleb Williams in Chicago. And so I think that the biggest surprise might be JJ McCarthy. The idea of JJ throwing to JJ Justin Jefferson certainly becomes a little bit more appealing for Vikings fans today than maybe it was a week or two ago, because I think it's going to happen sooner. I think he is pretty much ready to go, and there's some growing pains he needs to go through. But I do think that what McCarthy showed, and I've seen some clips of him in camp too, and I know he's had some interceptions and stuff like that, but he's going to start sooner rather than later, even if it isn't week one. We expect Caleb to start. We expected Daniels to start, and now we know that McCarthy is trending in the right direction.
I hear you in that, and I'm with you too. Like, I'm not willing to oversell. Also, McCarthy sustained an injury, so he might need some time to recover in preseason here. We'll see how that plays out. But I was just interested because I saw him throw 2 touchdowns. He was the only rookie quarterback to throw 2 touchdowns in the first week of preseason. And also, granted, he threw a lot more than most of the rookies. A lot of guys, like Caleb Williams, only threw 7 passes. McCarthy threw 17 in this preseason so far. But let's go through and see other guys here. Another guy who maybe I didn't expect too much out of was Bo Nix. Bo Nix went 15 of 21 for 131 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. That's a completion rate, of 71.4%. Are you buying anything into Bo Nix, or are you still like, let me see this in an actual NFL action here?
No, I'm buying that they should start him. By the way, the Vikings, just so you know, you should start JJ McCarthy. Like this. If you're going to invest a top 15 pick in a player, and then they go out against 2s and look like that, like McCarthy did, or like Bo Nix did, where you said 15 of 21, like he was accurate, was efficient, can run the offense. All right. That's really it. Like, because if the Broncos are going to be really, really good in the near future, it's going to be because Bo Nix is a franchise quarterback. If the Vikings are going to be a playoff team this year, could they limp their way in or sneak their way in with Sam Darnold for a year? Maybe. But if they're ever going to be a true contender, guess what needs to happen? JJ McCarthy needs to be a franchise quarterback, a plus quarterback. That's why you take him 10th overall. That's why if you're the Broncos, you take Bo Nix. And that's why so many quarterbacks went early in this year's draft, because it's really, really hard to find these guys. And if you think you can, and you did find one, you take him and you think about the rest later. And to me, there's enough infrastructure there in Denver. You asked about Bo Nix for Sean Payton and company to make it work. I think that defense is solid. I get it. It's the Kansas City Chiefs division. All right. Well, that doesn't change regardless of who's at quarterback. So to me, I'm usually always in favor, unless the rookie is really treading water or the pieces around him aren't there, start the young guy. And in these situations, I would start both young guys from the jump.
I hear you on that. Who was your most impressive rookie quarterback from the preseason so far?
I think Jayden Daniels, man. I am buying the Jayden Daniels, just the way his game translates. I mean, the deep ball. That deep ball wasn't to Terry McLaurin. That wasn't Jahan Dotson. No, that was a third rounder in Diami Brown from North Carolina. That's when I look at that, and then I see a Ben Sinnott, and they signed Zach Ertz, and Austin Eckler is there, and I'm like, all right, well, Eckler's not what he once was. Zach Ertz isn't what he once was, but I like Sinnott a lot, and those veterans are savvy enough to help a young quarterback. Like, I just think the pieces are around him, and he is ready to go now to make an impact. So I think he's the guy. They might not win the division, so to speak, but I think he's the guy that puts up huge numbers, and we're talking about him in the offensive rookie of the year race, no doubt.
I think that's certainly interesting. Let's quickly go to the Patriots before we do our first break here, because they got two rookie quarterbacks. Remember, they got Drake May and Joe Milton.
I see what you did there. Uh-oh.
And there have been some, again, not that I've paid a whole lot of attention to the Patriots quarterback race and whatever is going on in camp, but there have been some from the camps and who've been keeping an eye on things who said that Joe Milton has been a little bit more impressive at times than Drake May. But in their first preseason game, Drake May 2 of 3 for 19 yards, nothing really to shake a stick at there. But Joe Milton 4 of 6 for 54 yards and a touchdown. So also not much to do that, because also Milton, doing it later, but later in the game. But also, I look at that and I do wonder, like, at what point do the Patriots feel like maybe they do have a quarterback issue on their hands? Because the first round pick, the guy that you picked super high, you want to give him that credence. But Joe Milton, I covered that guy. I saw him play against Pitt a few times over the years, and I've seen that cannon on that man. I've seen how big he is and how fast he is, and if he can get the basics done of an offense, all of a sudden he goes from being a late round pick, I think he was picked in the 6th round, to being someone that maybe you want to take a look at it here. Are you buying that there's actually a quarterback controversy brewing in New England, or do you think, okay, everyone, calm down, Drake May is going to be the guy, and there's no question about it?
No, I actually think that this is the one scenario where Jacoby Brissett is going to start. The veteran should start. Because you're talking about young weapons that are trying to figure it out. Right. Like you don't know who's who yet. You have Jalen Polk, who I really like, Javon Baker really like. And so does that work? Hunter Henry at tight end. I like Ramondre Stevenson, but man, they're trying to work through some things on offense. And Drake May is a project. Yeah. He is. Now, he may have a higher ceiling than JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix, substantially higher in the Patriots' eyes, of course, but you got to get him there. And then Milton, he's project too. Like, as you were describing it, and it maybe it works out, but it's still project that's going to take some time. And so for me, it's like, all right, let's let these guys learn. Jacoby Brissett is a pro. No one's really expecting you to do a ton this year anyway. And, by mid-year, if one of these guys appears to be ready, and I assume it will be Drake May, but if one of them does appear to be ready, then you can lean that way. But to me, I just, Chris, I would be, you don't want to ruin a guy. And I do think you can do that. So I'm just not willy-nilly throw guys out there. I think the Vikings and the Broncos have more set up for these young quarterbacks to have success. In Drake May's case, whether it's him developing or Milton, but these guys need to develop a bit more, especially with what is around them or what isn't around them. Up next, a team that they're going to play twice this year, the New York Jets. Are you buying the Jets, or are we selling the Jets because there's more drama in Jetland? We'll get to that coming up next.
But first, I want to remind you, this show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in America. I love sports, and there's plenty of action going on right now. And that means that you can get in on all that action on FanDuel. Major League Baseball is well underway. The WNBA is coming back soon with the end of the Olympics, and there's always big fights to clock in on. So all you have to do is open the FanDuel app right on your phone, and you can make bets anytime that you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus every single day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You don't have to be a new customer. You don't have to be a returning customer. You could be anybody going into FanDuel.com, and you can see the daily bonus available to you. So head over to FanDuel.com, start making the most out of your summer, and that's on FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Should we buy or sell the New York Jets? There's always drama. And check out our Tuesday episode of Locked On NFL.
Yep.
For the breakdown of Hassan Reddick. You know, I just can't help
such a mess. It's such a mess.
You knew he wanted a new deal.
Yep.
You didn't get it done before the trade.
Yep.
Somewhere Howie Roseman is just cackling. I mean, just laughing.
The Eagles are just like, thanks, guys. That's your problem now.
Yeah, I just it's just silly. And then they had to put out an official statement, and then there's all the I don't even want to say drama around this team, but there's just a lot. And so,
but it is drama. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is over there. That means there's drama.
Exactly.
That's just been there.
Can they overcome the drama and be a winning team this year, be a playoff team this year, Chris? You buying? Are you selling the idea of the Jets making the postseason?
Man, I'm selling. I'm sorry. Like, I know that they got talent. Look, I like. There's plenty of players on this team I like. You know, I like. You know, I like Garrett Wilson. I think that he can be a phenomenal player. I think that he could do a lot of good things. I love Quinnen Williams. I think that he's awesome. CJ Mosley is doing. Sauce Gardner's the man over there. But I'm sorry, it's just like there's so many organizational problems, and it's something that when I see that, it just makes me want to run away from a team, because I look into that and I see, like, man, like you guys haven't changed. And like for example, this Hassan Reddick trade, when it happened, we were all kind of like, okay, but are you going to give him the deal that he wants? Like, you see what he's doing here. And now here you are with him demanding a trade, and now you're trying to get into a battle with him. All while, James, their first round pick from last year is Will McDonald IV. And this is the dude that you traded for to basically start over, who's supposed to be a second-year player. This was going to be his year to rise up and do something. And now the guy that you traded for to go ahead of him doesn't even want to play, and you're playing hardball with him. This is just so much nonsense. And then you got Aaron Rodgers not practicing sometimes and all that. And this is a guy who played one snap last year. I'm sorry. Like, you know, and again, I like Breece Hall. I love their running back depth. Braylon Allen, I think, could do a lot. I love Israel Abanikanda, you know, and everything they got going on there. Malachi Corley. There's so much talent on this team, but the problem that I have with this team overall is just the organization is a mess. They've continued to be a mess. I love Elijah Vera Tucker and Joe Tippmann, but I'm sorry, with when this kind of stuff's going down, it's telling me there's still a lot of organizational problems. There's organizational problems. People can't get on the same page. People start going all over the place. I mean, heck, James, you saw it over the years with the Bengals. There are years where they'd have a ton of talent and they couldn't put it together because the organization has had a problem. They had to say, hey, we got to get a coach in here that can help fix this. And I think that's where the Jets are right now. They still have so many organizational problems, even beyond just coaching. And I think that as long as that stuff persists, I can't buy in on the New York Jets.
I'm going to make the case the other way. Not that I disagree with you, because I am the drama in the silliness of trading for like it's hard to buy into all of this, but there is a lot of
third round pick for that guy.
We can agree they have talent though, right?
Yeah,
we can agree there. All right, let's look at their schedule, because I think that's the best argument for the Jets is their schedule. Now they open with San Francisco. That's an L. Brandon Ayuk or not, that's probably an L. But then after that, Titans, Patriots. I just said the Patriots are project. I wouldn't play a young quarterback, but maybe Drake May is playing, which huge edge for New York. Bo Nix potentially in Denver. And the infrastructure's there, but I'm not expecting the Broncos to be awesome. So there's a chance at 3-1. Then you have the Vikings. JJ McCarthy, first start. Ooh, never know. Bills, tough game in division. Steelers, Patriots again. You have the Cardinals to
You
start
skipped the
November.
Texans, sir.
I did skip the Texans. And then the Cardinals. I'm just like, there's a chance we look up, and going into that Texans game, they have 3 losses. Like, there's a chance, where we could be talking about a 6-3 team, a team that got off to a good start, and they should start 3-1. If they're a legitimate playoff team, they should lose to the 49ers potentially, and then beat the Titans, beat the Patriots, beat the Broncos. I think that's realistic for what their mindset is. And so if we're talking about a 3-1 team going into October, the AFC is loaded, but they will be in the mix. That being said, it's just really loud.
Yeah.
You know, I like my music loud. I don't necessarily like my teams loud. I don't like organizations loud. Like you mentioned, I cover the Bengals, right? Jamar Chase holding in, but it's not loud.
Right.
It's quiet. No one.
It's one of the quieter hold-ins in the league right now. Let's say that.
He doesn't talk. The Bengals don't talk, and he's
not posting on Instagram cryptic messages.
That's right. You know, he's not in his car with the music on, and there's some kind of hidden lyric in there that he wants people to know. You're right. And so that's how I like my quarterbacks, my franchises, my teams to run. And I look at the Jets, and it's just like, man, there's so much talent. And I want to believe that Aaron Rodgers still has something, because he's one of the NFL's best quarterbacks ever. And I don't want that to go away yet, because once it's gone, it's gone. And yet I just have a lot of questions about this team. And I think there's a lot of stuff that they have to get over, and a lot of it's self-inflicted.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. And look, this isn't just a new thing. This has been the Jets for such a long time, and you know, it's kind of like, you got to beat the allegations, man. You got to show me that your organization is different, that you don't have institutional problems that continue to just plague you in the toughest moments. And right now, just this whole Reddick situation is just further signs that you're in that situation. And again, for a position where you got Jermaine Johnson, and then you got a guy who's a second-year player in Will McDonald, who, like, I remember the Jets last year bragged because they said that they knew the Steelers were trading ahead of them to get to the Patriots to get Broderick Jones, and they let it happen because they really wanted Will McDonald IV, and they thought that he was. And it's like, okay, the Steelers got a premier offensive tackle who's now playing very well for them and helped them have like a really good rushing offense in the second half of last year. Is expected to be their starting left tackle this year, and your guy is on the bench, and you're trading for people who don't even want to play for you yet to start ahead of them.
They took Will McDonald over Jackson Smith-Njigba. You could have paired up Smith-Njigba and Garrett Wilson and said, good luck to the NFL, because we're going to have these 2 Ohio State wide receivers and roll with them. Like, I just think that there's some talent there, but it's on shaky ground, and you're banking on old offensive linemen at the tackle spots. Maybe it works. I will say Olu Fashanu, pretty dang good, man. I like you add him. He was my favorite offensive tackle for the Bengals in this draft. Is from a scheme fit perspective over everybody, including Alt. So I do think, just because he's a great pass protector. So I do think that there's a chance that they do make the run. And I think that's why people are kind of 50-50, because we see all of the shaky foundation, but the schedule, the talent, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Jets this season.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some other drama that's going on, or potential drama. I want to talk about whether it is extra drama in Houston with Stefon Diggs. We'll get to that next here on the Locked On NFL podcast.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. When your schedule is packed with the kids' activities, big work projects, and more, it's easy to let your priorities slip. And it's busy season for Chris and I, so we understand it, that even when you know what makes you happy, it's hard to make time for it. But when you feel like there's no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you're thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So a lot of fall times like this during football season, I know Chris is the same way. You have to live out of your suitcase if you're covering football, because you're traveling all over. Chris is driving to Steelers camp right now. Things are busy, and by the way, driving to Steelers camp, because it's like 90 minutes from his house, or an hour, whatever it is. Just fill out a brief questionnaire today and you can get started with BetterHelp. What you'll do is you'll fill out that questionnaire, you'll get matched with a therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
Back here on the Locked On NFL podcast, Chris Carter, James Rapien. James, let's talk about Stefon Diggs. He was seen on the sidelines at the game that I was covering this past weekend, voicing some frustrations to CJ Stroud in week 1 of the preseason. Granted, it's kind of week 2 for them because they played the first week, but the Hall of Fame week. But it's just like, oh boy. Again, when I said the phrase beating the allegations, he's not beating the allegations of being the diva that people accused him of being in Buffalo. And immediately there were people saying that, thank God he's out of Buffalo. That's what we didn't want to deal with there. And James, I push back against the diva narrative because I think sometimes it gets unfairly thrown around on players who are just trying to exercise their contract or their prospects of getting the best contract. Like Brandon Ayuk. I don't think Brandon Ayuk's being a diva for trying to figure out what the best offer for him. I think that Brandon Ayuk is simply negotiating, and part of negotiating sometimes is not showing up all the time because the league can jerk you around. You're allowed to kind of push back with how you want to do things. So I don't think that as many diva wide receivers as some people say, but there are diva players, and Stefon Diggs again isn't beating out the allegations when there's stuff like this. And this could be overblown. This could be completely nothing. But I feel like with him being the veteran that he is, you're in this new offense that did really well last year. You got a young quarterback. Even having that visual, I think being mindful to say, hey, let's not do this here. Let's do this in private. If I have an issue, let me take it up with him because I'm the veteran wide receiver that was brought here to help this young quarterback perform better. I don't need to cause these questions out in public.
Yeah, I think it's something that if I'm him, and I can't believe Houston did this, but X's out all of those years, you want to show, hey, I'm the perfect team guy because he's in a contract here.
Yep.
And so you have a chance to win a ring. You have a chance to put up huge numbers. By the way, traded for Diggs this offseason in a dynasty league. So personally, I hope he crushes it. But at the same time, it's just the perception. And perception is really tough to flip after it's set, especially for a star. Like Aaron Rodgers, let's say he was drama-free. We just talked about that. Let's say he was drama-free for the past 8 months. People wouldn't view him that way.
Nope.
He's already a drama king, and he's already got all of these things that we think about when we think about Aaron Rodgers now. Like that's the perception, whether he likes it or not. And Diggs, like I saw a list on social media. It was like biggest diva in the NFL. And I don't know if I necessarily feel that way, but that's the perception. And so, you could say, all right, well, I don't care about the perception, but the perception that can impact how long you're in the league, how much money you're going to make while you're still in your prime. And I still think he is in his prime, maybe at the tail end, but still in his prime. And so I think he needs to be aware of that. Like if I'm his agent, I'm like, hey, look, go put up huge numbers.
Right.
Try not to feed into that perception and show everyone who you are. And I do think that deep down, Diggs is a team guy. I think the way things ended in Buffalo, there was a lot of reasons to be upset. And I understand it because they have Josh Allen and they haven't made it to a Super Bowl, which is a really tough situation to be in. I feel
or an AFC championship game.
Or AFC. Yeah, that's true. Because the 8 seconds game was the divisional round. Good point.
And look, again, Stefon Diggs, I'm sure he's had gripes in the past. My thing is, and this might not have been a big deal, but my thing is that that there's this stigma that people are placing on you. So don't feed into it, man. Don't give these people the ammunition here. And now you see this, and people are getting to buy into this. And this can all go away if, like, week 1, Stefon Diggs catches a touchdown from CJ Stroud. They're blowing it up, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, this is a fit. But like now this is a question, and now people are going to be asking about him at training camp. And they're going to say, what's going on there? Then they're going to ask CJ Stroud about it. Then they're going to ask Tank Dell about it. Then they're going to ask who's the leader of the wide receiver room. Is he a good role model for what the Texans wide receiver? And all this wouldn't have happened if he had just whatever he was saying to CJ Stroud in that moment that looked a little tense. Do that in the locker room. Do that where the cameras can't see you, and then No, and then we're not talking about this right now. We're picking a third segment to discuss here. It's those types of things. And again, I get it if that was, Malik Neighbors or, just a very young wide receiver who was still figuring it out. But Stefon Diggs, you 31, baby. Like you've been in this league, this game. And this is a dude he's had over 1,000 yards receiving for what, 6 years in a row? Like, I just feel like Diggs, he is smart enough to know this kind of stuff. And that's why I feel like just stay away from these things that don't feed into these narratives that people have made up about you, because then you give those narratives ammunition, you give them weight, and then they're saying, oh, now there's like if you Google Stefon Diggs Texans right now, there's articles, there's questions like, oh, is this the drama that the Bills wanted to avoid? And Bills writers saying like, this is why they got rid of him in the first place. All that doesn't have to be a thing, especially when you got a young quarterback in C.J. Stroud who you're trying to help bring up. And that's part of why they brought him in, was to say, hey, help our young quarterback continue his ascension to be one of the best in the NFL.
Yep. Yeah, I think it could be a win-win for everyone, and Diggs has to be bought in. I think he is. I do think that there's a chance he's entering that next phase. And so maybe that's why Houston wanted to get out of it and say, hey, this 1 year we'll figure out receiver after that. But for this 1 year, be our wide receiver 1 alongside Nico Collins. At the same time, maybe he's just trying to work through things, like you said, with CJ Stroud, get on the same page. It's just that perception follows him a little bit now. That's why it's a topic. That's why it's an article. That's why he's going to be under the magnifying glass. And that stuff will matter when he becomes a free agent.
Absolutely.
So that's what he should keep in mind, I think, this season, as he tries to help Houston win a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And we'll keep an eye on all things there, as well as all things around the preseason as we head into week 2 of the preseason. Who are the top matchups? I'm sure we'll be getting into that later this week on the Locked On NFL podcast. From Chris Carter and James Rapien, thanks so much for watching the Locked On NFL podcast. We'll be back on your screens and in your ears tomorrow with our Thursday host, keeping you straight here on the Locked On NFL podcast.